Last episode, and you dropped this on me. Jesus.
Cool. I haven't prepared an intro or anything. I usually prepare an intro for.
You've done this for over a year now.
Yeah, dude.
Wing it.
I write down an intro every time. I probably
do you
just
really? How much do you actually prepare for that?
prep for like a regular interview.
Yeah, other than come up with questions.
Well, coming up with questions and topics is like 90% of the prep.
Okay.
I just write down the intro, like the intro I do on what they've done and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah, I'll probably just kind of, I don't know, fade in the volume slowly for this episode.
like an old rock song or something. Just start fading.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fade out at the end.
All right. So, yeah, if you're listening to this episode right now, welcome
that was
to
it.
that's the intro, guys. Welcome to the very last episode of Last League Liquid for 2021. I'm very happy to have once again with me Aussie Williams. Sorry.
I was about to correct you there.
From Telman Wilson, joining me to do a very special episode, recapping what is, not in our opinion, but what is in actual facts, the best tunes and the best albums of 2021.
And everything else is completely trash.
Exactly.
Basically.
So everything we're going to say is not our opinion. It's entirely facts and cannot be debated. So come at me if you don't agree with anything. But yeah, no, I'm really keen to dig into this. First of all, how are you doing, man? How are things?
I'm doing excellently. I've been listening to a load of music this weekend, just prepping for this. I've been going through all the tracks that came out this year, and there was a few of them. I can say that for sure. And, yeah, it's been fun. Actually, I did the same process in 2019, I think. I listed everything and then got a rough top 40 basically for myself, and it kind of, I don't know, it gave a completely new view on the tracks, because you're kind of forced to think on what you actually like and why, and actually trying ranking them, which is difficult, especially when you're it would be easier if I just listened to Liquid songs only.
Okay, that's the first dig at Liquid for the evening.
Or just if I just listen to one genre, it'd be much easier. But when you listen to I'm forced to listen to a lot, and in that situation, there's so many different vibes, so many different reasons
how
you
do you
rank
compare
something above something. Yeah, exactly.
How do you compare super deep techie track to a Liquid tune? Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you have the same thing?
It's been fun.
Did you have the same thing as me when you were like, oh shit, this actually came out in 2021? Because I had tracks, I went back and I was like, tracks that came out in February or March feels like years ago already. And I was like, oh shit, this actually came out this year. And so there was so many tracks to check out.
A couple of them. And I also had a lot of tracks that came out in 2020 that I was pretty sure came out 2 months ago or something.
Oh, really?
And one of them I want to shout out before we start. I think it was the best track last year, is Emperor Still, which I wanted to put on this list, but apparently I can't because it's 2020. But anyway.
I had a few. We'll get into that when we talk about the albums, but obviously with the way albums are done now, and sometimes they feel a bit more like compilations than actual albums. Sometimes they have tracks from 2020 on the album. So that was kind
that
of
doesn't matter.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it later. But before we so the way we're gonna do this, so we're first gonna recap each of us our top 5 favorite tunes of 2021. So just solo, just tracks, top 5 each of us, and then we're gonna go over our 3 favorite albums, because we figured going over EPs and trying to rank EPs, given that there's roughly 120 EPs that come out every day was going to be hard. So we're going to stick to albums for the second part. But yeah, first part sticking to tracks. Before we jump into all of that, kind of curious, how did you go about selecting your favorite tracks? What was kind of your process?
Well, my process was because I do DJing and I sort most of my tracks with Tractor. Then I put them into record box after that, etc. But I use Tractor mainly for that, and so I have a playlist that has basically all the tracks that came out in 2021 that I liked. I went in there, I selected the best ones, then I took those and I selected the best ones out of those, and then slowly but surely until I had like a rough estimate, a rough little tier list of tracks that consisted of about 90 tracks, Jesus. which were my kind of like the best of the best this year. Yeah. And then I got those into a like nice little rank, just pushing the best ones up slowly but surely.
Yeah.
It didn't even take me long. It took me like an hour or two maybe.
Oh shit. Yeah. See, for me it took me way longer because I don't DJ. So it was more a question of, okay, what actually came out in 2021, and just going back through, trying to remember the tracks we talked about on our rundown episodes. And yeah, I kind of started with my Spotify Wrapped, because that's just the most listened tunes of the year. That's a good place
to start, yeah.
Except like 70% is in drum and bass. It's like the Beatles and the Stone Roses and stuff like that. So I had to remove all of that. And then, but yeah, straight off the bat, there were like 10, 15 tracks that I was like, oh yeah, that was like definitely one of my favorite tracks of this year. And then I kind of went through just my favorite like artists that I listened to, and kind of, yeah, tried to remember what they released earlier in the year. Checked out a few of my favorite labels to make sure I hadn't forgotten everything.
Did you have any surprises on there?
In my top tracks?
Yeah. Did anything that you kind of realized that, wait a second, this is actually really good?
Yeah. So I had a few tunes that I already had in mind, and that came up in my top play tunes, and I already had in mind as my favorite tracks. There's one or two you'll see that I had kind of forgotten, and I listened back to them. I was really like, this is one of the best tracks of the year, like really. And I loved that feeling of like rediscovering. I don't know if you rediscovered tracks while you were doing your selection, but kind of listening back.
A lot of them. Actually, my number one track was basically one of the rediscovered ones.
Oh, so it's not Cientero.
Oh,
dude,
no, it is not.
Dude, you're spoiling the party. Huge spoiler straight away. Oh shit, because I kind of like tried to predict what would be your favorite tracks of the year, and I just put that one as number one.
Oh no, that would be way too easy.
Okay, I have a second option as your number one, but I'll keep it for later.
Dude, I have a feeling you're gonna be wrong, but
is it because I bashed you so much about that track that you just didn't?
I feel so ashamed.
You didn't dare to put it number one, or what?
No. It's a really good track, and it might or it might not come up in my top 5, but there were still better ones out there, just in terms of everything and how I felt about them. And there's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah. Okay, so I know I'm dragging this out, and we'll get to the top 5 very soon. But how did you go about like actually ranking them or selecting the best ones? How did you go about it? Because you're a DJ, so was it more like how well they flow in your mixes, for example? What was kind of the criteria to?
I tend to like tracks, that I can that I have played in mixes, and what I've played with or played around with in Tractor or on DJ equipment in general. Because sometimes I get a track and this is okay, but then I use it in a mix. I use it in a couple of like little blends of tracks, and I suddenly start to like it more and more and more. And that is definitely one of the factors that kind of affect my choices every now and then. But a lot of these is just I try to go out of my way and not pick those tracks
Mm.
because I don't know. I feel it's a bit maybe cheating the music in a sense if I just rank them in terms of how good of DJ tools they are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not really
yeah,
it's not really the point here, or I don't feel it is the point.
yeah.
And so, like I said, I have a lot of different tracks on here, and my top 5 are all kind of different reasons why they are in the top 5, and trying to rank those because especially when they are all different reasons, it's really hard. But I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I got a nice little like solid bunch here, so I'm
We're,
happy
we're
with that.
we're building this up so much. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention as well is like, obviously it's if you ask us the same question like next week or in 2 weeks time, my top 5 might be different because it kind of
Definitely.
depends in like the mood you're in and how you're feeling in that moment, and so it changes all the time. But yeah, I'm quite happy with what I selected. Last question before we get into it: do you think we'll have anything in common in our selections?
Ooh, in the top 5, I doubt it. In in maybe top 20 that I've listed, I
The
think we
short list, yeah,
might.
yeah,
And but in the top 5, I doubt.
yeah.
Maybe one might be, but I'm not sure about that one. Depends on how you felt about it. We'll see.
We'll see. All right, so before we dive into it, if you guys want to check out, well, ideally you'll wait until the end of the episode, but we've put together a playlist on Spotify that we'll put in the show notes, in the description on if you're watching this on YouTube. So that'll feature our favorite tracks of the year plus a ton of other tracks that didn't quite make the cut, and we'll probably mention all of those at the end of the episodes, like tracks we really liked and we kind of want to big up but didn't fit into the selection. So if you guys want to check all of those, link will be in the description. And I think we've dragged it out enough, so let's dive into our top 5 tracks of 2021. I'll give you the honors. So what is your number 5 track of 2021?
My number 5 track, the track we already talked about, it's Cientello. It is
Number 5.
I know, right? I know, right?
What? Dude, I need some like audio effect of like da-da-da-da-da-da, like dramatic effect, like only number
see that
5.
one
Okay,
coming?
I'm properly shocked, man, because you
And
when that
it was
track came
close.
out.
It was close of even hitting number 5. I had another one that I had Nymphos and Flow Anastasia's River Flows. That was I was debating for like 10 minutes if I put in which one I put one like further, but Cientello
Okay.
came out on top in the end.
Because I actually put in my like little prediction for you, I put Flo Anastasia's track in your top 3. Because I remember when that track came out, you talked about it a lot, and it
Yes,
kind of made
I
a
loved
good
it.
impact on you. So that one, so River Flows by Flo Anastasia and Nympho didn't make your top 5.
Unfortunately not. It is number 6.
It's a rough competition.
It is.
But okay, so Cientello, Cameron Crooked, Memphis, number 5.
Yes.
What can we still say about this track? What hasn't been said?
Yeah, exactly. DnB Arena, number 1 track of the year. And a lot of my tracks on the list, especially in like the top 10, top 12 maybe, is they are kind of they are based on mostly like fresh ideas and just execution in the end. It's things that you kind of rarely hear, or then it's just made to perfection. And I think Cientello goes into the category of things you don't hear that often. Of course, the production is top notch, like
Yeah.
no question about it. But I think what makes the track is the vocals. It's the kind of drawn out sing along vocals that you very rarely get in drum and bass. Like you get sing alongs in liquid tracks or dance floor tracks.
Yeah, more
But-
the liquidity type of tracks.
Yeah, but you don't get them in this capacity. Usually they are really fast tempo just because of the nature and rhythm of drum and bass, and in my opinion, the faster vocals, they already diminish the sing-along ability of a track, in a sense that you don't get the feel to it in the same way. You don't have that much emotion in it when you I don't know what would be a good, like something like a Mudok track would be a good good example. Like really good tracks, excellent dance floor tracks, great vocals, really catchy vocals, but it's not the same feeling that you get from that. And just the blend of these kind of emotional lyrics and the heavy neurofunk that comes from most likely Matthews in this, it's just kind of perfects the tune.
I was gonna say the best part of that tune is the meme with the cat.
I think it's a hamster.
It's
I'm
a
pretty
hamster.
sure it's a hamster.
We
yes.
had this debate before, I think. I thought it was a cat. For people who haven't seen it, I don't know if you can Google meme Sientero. I'm not sure you'll find it, but if you're watching on YouTube, we'll try to make a little edit and add it, but it's a little hamster, let's say for argument's sake, a little hamster with a sombrero and at the top of a mountain just screaming like Aguilada. That's the best part of that track. Nah, I'm being mean towards your number 5. I do enjoy that track. It's just the first time I heard it, I felt like I was the only one that wasn't completely blown away by it, but it definitely grew on me, and I listened back to it this weekend preparing for this chat, and it is a good tune. Like you can't deny it.
And
it is.
You can't really, like I said, can you name any other kind of sing-along track that has come out in the past, I don't know, 2 years in drum and bass to this extent? Like people actually, you play this and people just go ham on the vocals, absolutely lose their vocal like chords and everything on this.
Well, there's a lot of like you mentioned like Liquidity tracks where people will sing along to the lead melody, which is different. Like Andromedic or Lexurus, those kind of guys have very like strong melodies.
Jump Up goes into the same category.
Yeah, and then people will go la la
like,
la or stuff like that, which isn't the same, but it's still kind of a sing along. But yeah, recently, no, definitely like the sing along power of that track is huge. Yeah, no, for sure.
We because of this, we gotta shout out the original artist on the vocals. It is Martina Camargo with a track called Ahila del Monte, and I think this came out like 2017 or something. It was adapted into a couple of house tunes, and then, well, Come and Crooked apparently found it. The original version of Cientello, you can find it on YouTube. If you're interested, if anyone is interested, you can find it with Come and Crooked Columbus is the name of the video, and you can definitely hear that Matthews is not yet done anything to it, or is he? If he has, it's very Come and Crookedy. It's kind of this minimal. The vocals are less massive, and just all in all, not as memorable of a track yet, but the end result definitely is.
Yeah, no, it's huge. I think like we don't have to talk about this one for 10 hours because this episode is going to be the longest ever. But did they drop that track for the first time on their UKF set?
Yes, the Glacier. I think it was the Glacier
set,
one. Yeah.
Was that the first? Like they might have dropped it live before, I don't know, but I think like online, that's when kind of people discovered that track.
And it wasn't long. Like it wasn't one of those 2-year dubs. Now
no,
like 3 months maybe, and it was out. So I think that must have been planned execution, since that was also UKF, and this track came out on UKF.
On UKF, so yeah.
I think they started it to set with it. So
okay.
So yeah, that was my number 5. How about yours?
So yeah, that got me really curious about your like number 1, and because I had put Flow Anastasia and that track in your top 3, so I'm really curious what you picked. But so yeah, moving on to my number 5, which is one of those tracks I was mentioning in the intro that I had kind of forgotten, but that we spoke about a lot in one of our rundowns a few months ago. And I remember when it came out, I was like, fuck me, I love this track. And then I kind of didn't listen to it that much because I don't DJ. and then rediscovered it because it was in my Wrapped Spotify, I think, and I was like, "Fuck, this is
Let me
amazing!"
guess.
And I've listened to it like 15 times just today.
Is
You
it
wanna-
Angels?
It fucking is. So yeah, Angels by Simila came out quite recently, like a few months ago, and I think the entirety, I forgot, we spoke about it on the rundown, but I think the entirety of a part of the proceeds went towards mental health.
Yes, it did.
And he, at the time, he did a lengthy interview on UKF explaining his own mental health struggles and why he wrote that track and stuff like that, which I remember really kind of struck a chord with me, and that gave an added dimension to the track. But I remember listening to the track and like that drop, the synth sound, twisty sound that comes in on the drop. I was like, "Fuck me! I've never heard like a sound like this." It's heavy, but it's minimal. It's melodic. The drum break just before the drop.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of it. Basically, that heavy drum break, drum break that doesn't fit, but it does.
Yeah, it just kind of like appears
Yeah.
like super compressed, like boom, 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 and then you've got the vocal chop that fits amazingly well. I don't pull a bass face very often because I'm not a DJ and I'm very much a liquid guy. I think everybody knows that by now. But when that drop hits, I'm just like, this is so good. So yeah, just a huge fan of that track. There weren't many, like obviously most of my favorite tracks of the year were more on the liquid side. But yeah, that track was just a huge accomplishment, I thought, and my fifth favorite track of 2021, Similar Angels. How did you guess it was that one?
I don't know. I just kind of how he described it. I figured it must be.
Yeah. Actually, like that track is like one of the tracks that just makes me want to DJ. Like and it doesn't happen often, but sometimes I'll hear a track and I'll be like, shit, I'd love to be like DJing or even at a like friend's party so I could drop this track with something else. And so that was like a huge sign for me, like when I get that feeling of like, I wanna play this live. That's like a sign that it's a really strong track. So yeah, just love that track, and just talking about it, I want to listen to it again.
Do you have any tracks that do you have any tracks on your list that kind of inspire you to get things done in terms of music?
Yeah.
If you're not feeling like producing, then do you have any tracks in there that kind of make you...
Yeah, most of them, to be honest, most of them.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like we're going to talk about more liquid tracks and more like North Quarter type of music. That's the kind of music that really inspires me, like soulful sample selection and stuff like that, like Settle and those guys. That's usually the tracks that I put one on and then I just want to jump into my DAW and make music. With Simila, it's not so much because that track Angels, I don't have a single clue how he made it. Like I'm not a sound design guy, so that's kind of the appeal as well, is I hear that sound and I don't have a clue how to even get close to it. So I wouldn't say that it really inspires me to make music because I have no idea how to make that music. But it just, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. So yeah. But yeah, so that was my number 5. Let's keep on climbing the ladder. So on your number 4 spot, what do you have?
Okay, next I have Skrillex, Noisia, Joss Pan, and Dylan Brady with Supersonic.
Okay, that was the last one that I had in my top 3 for you. So I don't have a clue what you have in your top 3 now. Okay, but go on.
So yeah, this one is hands down the best halftime track of the year, easy, no questions asked. It's one of the best halftime tracks I've heard ever. Um, hard to say if it's the best or not. I've got a feeling some Ivy Lab track or two would take the cake there, but for this year, definitely. And I enjoyed this so much. It's just the vocals, everything about it. Because yeah, exactly. I think the vocals is the thing that kind of, again, with
Again, yeah.
Ciantello, this is also the thing. It's also what makes the track. The bass drop is really cool and extremely powerful and, well, just fucking brilliant in general. But it's the vocals, I think, that kind of pushes it forward for me again. Because it starts off with these longer syllables, and then about 16 bars before the drop, it starts pushing forward a rhythm. And once the drop actually hits, you're already nodding your head, and it kind of it kind of prepares you for what's to come. And I love it that they've actually they've thought it through very well. In terms of the production and the arrangement and everything on this. And just the kind of like male vocal, not so very, very airy male vocal, it just hits me very differently compared to others. It works really well. Love it.
You don't mind it's, what is it, like 2 minutes, 30 seconds or something?
It's just as much as it needs to be.
Yeah.
The second drop. The second drop, I think it's only 16 bars long, so that's about 22 seconds. But, I don't know. Does it need to be any longer? I've already used this like in DJ mixes, and as soon as second drop is done, I mix in another one. So in that sense, I'm fine with it. And when I'm listening to it, it doesn't feel that it's too short. So
Yeah, no, sometimes like a track only needs really one actual drop or
that is actually one of my top 3 tracks only has one drop. So that is
I think
it is very true.
I think I know.
Okay.
Is it the one where like half the song is the intro?
It could be, yes. Let's not spoil too much here.
So many spoilers.
But yeah, this track in general, this came out 6 months ago. Skrillex leaked it. I'm air quoting here for any listeners. Skrillex leaked it on his subreddit. And before that, it was first aired in December 2019 at a festival video.
2 years ago.
Yeah, in New Zealand, if I remember correctly. I can't remember what the festival was, but ever since that, I've been just waiting and waiting and waiting on when it's gonna drop. So I think that that waiting for the dub is kind of hyped it up for me. In the same sense that, for example, what would be a good dub? D-Bridge and Jubei, Show Me, for example. That's one of the hypest dubs that has been lately. Everyone went absolutely crazy when that dropped, and it still works really well. And the same thing happened for me on this. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and now this came out, and I am very pleased with the outcome.
I also gave it a listen. I think for me, I need to hear it live at least once, because it's so fucking loud. It's so loud. It's like that's like maybe my only issue with the track is like, is this like a more of a sound engineering like show off, or is it like an actual song? Because
you got Skrillex and Noisia on there, so I wouldn't be surprised.
But it sometimes it feels like, okay, how loud can we actually push this, and how much side chaining and compression can we give this so that everything is just fucking crushing the wall all the time, you know? But yeah, besides that, obviously it's like an amazing tune. It's really well constructed, and the vocal especially gives it like a kind of hypnotizing
Yeah, exactly.
feeling at the start. Uh,
And in general, I'm just a huge fan of Skrillex. Like sometimes his tracks, sometimes they're hit to my liking, sometimes they're not. But I like how he keeps pushing forward. He keeps pushing a new style forward all the time and keeps refreshing himself, which is always admirable.
Yeah. All right. So that was your number 4. Moving on to my number 4.
What is it gonna be?
Moving to the more liquid side. I had to have the Nordcore in my top 5 somewhere, and there's so many tunes I could have picked from what the Nordcore released this year. But I went with one that every time I listen to it kind of makes me feel very nostalgic for some reason. Not really sad, but just kind of nostalgic for a time that's passed for some reason. And I've no idea if that was like the meaning behind this track, but it's Submorphic's first track to his EP Newport Magnetic, which is called Botanical Life, which I don't think was really the most successful track or the most listened to track on that EP. But I don't know. Yeah, for me, that track really just resonated with me when it came out, and when I listen back to it now, it still has the same impact. You've got the intro from that, the girl that kind of talks this meditation practice almost of like, shut down your screen. This is the last time you're looking at your screen for today, and kind of turn it all off, and kind of this meditation of leaving the, I don't know, screens, computer world behind you, and yeah, the drop with the like kind of old school bass line, and I don't know. I could speak about this track for a long time. Yeah, it's just one of those tracks where all the elements work really well together, and if you'd listen to them just by their own, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, amount to much. But you put all of those together, and they just strike an emotion in me when I listen to it. And so yeah, that's why it's in my top 5 at number 4. Submorphic's Botanical Life.
Gotta love that Submorphics. It's always you can always trust in him. Just put out an album 2020, Kodak Dreams. And how many tracks on this EP?
Probably 5 or 6. Like the Nordcore is always 6. Yeah. And there's a few others. I think like Let It Shine was kind of the more, I don't have the track listing in front of me. I think Let It Shine was maybe the more streamed, like the one people liked more.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah. But yeah, Botanical Life for me was always the one, that kind of intro. And I've said it a million times, and we'll probably talk about it when we get into the albums. But for me, it can be an album or an EP. It's really important that there's some kind of intro and something that introduces you to the EP, to the album. And for me, Botanical Life really has that, with the spoken word at the start, kind of building the atmosphere and setting the tone for the entire EP. So yeah, I just love that track. And I remember talking with Submorphics on the podcast a few episodes back, and I think I remember him saying that he wasn't really sure if that track like worked, like he wasn't 100% convinced. And I was like, dude, like that's the best off the EP by far. So yeah, I just love that track to death. And yeah,
did he say what convinced him in the end, or what made him put it on the EP?
I don't know. Probably just talking with Lensman, and Lensman probably really liked the track, and he probably had good feedback from people. But yeah, there's often like that one track or two where you're like, yeah, I don't know if it's as good as the rest. And yeah, I love that track. So that's the number 4 for me for 2021.
Excellent. Okay, mine. My number 3 is It's of my basically my EP of the year. Um, which comes in the form of workforce track backup, and
Yeah.
this is from the EP Moods that came out on Critical, and every single one of those tracks are in my kind of short list for my favorites of the year, and so I had to kind of just purely is the best EP for me this year, just out of that, and I love this track backup is just so good. Like you got the drums. The drums are the thing that drives this, keeps on driving it forward. And it's like the raw power that I think rarely you kind of find in this capacity. Even though we're talking about drum and bass, but very rarely do you hear outside of like a jungle sense. You very rarely hear people just leave their drums alone and not slap any other layers like Simpson,
they're quite dirty.
They are, yes.
Yeah.
Like it just works so well. Like you got most cases in the track you just got the drums going.
Yeah.
For a short instance, and it just keeps on going and going and going. It's excellent. I love it. I could listen to those for like on loop for days. And it's not even that they are that complex. It's not the drum pattern isn't very complex. And there's not much going on there. Very simple kick, snare, some hi-hats, etc.
Yeah.
But it's just done to perfection. Absolutely perfection in my opinion.
And the synth line that comes in, like the dee 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 dee, like there's some like weird notes being played out during the track that works really well as well.
You got the kind of end bar bass hits as well that I wouldn't say come out of nowhere. They don't really come out of nowhere because they've been kind of they've been played previously in the track, so you know what to expect. But still kind of, I don't know. I love this one. Absolutely love this one.
Did you play it a lot in your sets? Like, does it fit well? Or
yes, definitely. I got a couple of good mixes on this one, and it's just I don't know if it translates to others in the same way, but for us it works so well. And I think Workforce, he has that way with drums somehow, that he manages to do them in a sense that they just basically stand alone drums. And that's all you need. Yeah. Got a lot of his tracks are like that. For example, in his remix that he did for Clinical, Around Me, same thing. A very very minimal track. Drums are even that heavy in that, but still they just kind of just drive the track forward, and love it.
Yeah.
Another track that comes to mind that has kind of that type of drums is Spectre Soul's Untitled Horn. And I would imagine that this is something that Workforce has been working on for some time now, considering he was part of Spectre Soul. So
yeah, he's one of those artists that can put out a really good liquid tune, but then he has those like really heavy hitting tracks as well, and he can do both as well as each other.
Yep.
Yeah, no, good stuff. When did that track came out? Because when you put it in the playlist, and I didn't even remember that EP dropping.
That came out. It was the Moods EP that came out on Critical. I'm just looking on Spotify now quickly if I can find it.
It's probably like early in the year or something.
2021. That's all Spotify is telling me. So
yeah, there's so much stuff in Spotify that they could like clean up, like the actual release dates, for example.
That would be nice. That would be very nice.
Searching by label, you can kind of do it, but it's always a mess.
And in general, just not fuck with the artist. Give them more money, please. That EP came out in January 2021. So
Okay, yeah,
very,
that's why I have
very
no
close
recollection
to
of
the
it.
deadline. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's
Also, also on the, I just want to shout out the other tracks too. Also on that EP, you got Ego, Bring Down, and Maudlin. All excellent tracks. Like I said, all of them are on my short list.
Yeah. So I'm starting to think there probably won't be any Liquid tracks in your top 5. If like your top 3 was like Skrillex, then
I don't know.
Centello, then
I don't know. Might be.
I don't know.
Might not be. Still got 2 more to go.
I doubt you're gonna pull out like a Caliber as number 1 or something like that. Doesn't feel like you, but okay, we'll see. Cool. Okay, moving into my top 3. So honestly, top 3, you could ask me another day, and I might have put them in another order, because the 3 tracks we're going to talk about for me were they were all tracks that the first time I listened to them, I just replayed them again, which doesn't happen that often, because I try to listen to a lot of different stuff, and if I like something, I'll add it to a playlist and come back to it later. But yeah, these tracks, when I heard them the first time, it was just instant replay, and usually I just went and told anybody who likes music or whatever, doesn't listen to drum and bass, maybe I just told them about those tracks because I thought they were so good. And yeah, this one especially stood out to me as for my number 3, because it's an artist that was pretty much unknown to me. I know I probably bashed your ears about this track when it came out. It's Sanctum by Eon. Track came out, I don't know, like 6 months ago or something, on 174, which is a up and coming Australian label. Definitely a more like dance floor track.
Definitely, yes.
More in the vibes of more metric, liquidity type of like sing along type of stuff. But yeah, I remember just listening to that track. I was on the 174 promo list and got the SoundCloud link, press play, and was like blown away by just like the melody was instantly in my head, and just replayed the track straight away. Went into Spotify, checked out the guy. He had like 1 track on Spotify at that time. I was like, who the fuck is this guy making this sort of music? And yeah, since then I've been listening a lot to that track. I sent it to a lot of people. I imagine if I DJ'd, I would have played it a lot of times. Mixed in with Metric, Lexers, Justin Hawks, those kind of guys. Just love that track. It's a great mix of a super catchy melody in the intro, but then also really well produced. Like everything is nicely sidechained, so it's like the intro is really pumping. You can hear all the elements clearly. Everything just really works for me in that track. And again, just talking about it, I want to just listen to it now. Yeah. Do you remember when I talked to you about this track?
Yes, I do. You sent me a Facebook message straight away. I think so.
It's like, listen to this now. Drop everything.
I think I actually did. I remember this. I was doing something very important, and then you.
Yeah, right. As usual.
I had to dig out my headphones and started listening.
Yeah.
But no, it did not. It did not let me down.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah. Does it kind of stand out to you as much as it does to me, or is it just another one of those dance floor tracks to you?
Doesn't stand out to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put this in my kind of short list.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it's weird. It's really weird how it works.
It is, and I've been it's interesting. I shared my short list to a couple of others, especially the people who I do my Reddit stuff with. 2 other guys there, and they got inspired and did their own too. And we have almost no similar tracks. Like my short list is 90 tracks. The other guy, one of them, um, had a list about 130, and there was
Jesus.
maybe maximum of 10 same tracks in there. And the same applies to the third person as well. He didn't have that long of a list, but still there was no similarities.
Yeah.
Which I find very surprising. Maybe it's kind of like one of these self-reflection type of moments, because I listen to so much of drum and bass.
But I think there's
still there's people who have absolutely no similar taste, which is weird. There's just so much drum and bass and so much. I think it speaks about drum and bass that there's so much of it, and there's so many niches that you can fill, and there's so many things that you can like, and
I could do a top 10 of just dance floor kind of stadium snare type of like tracks. I could do a top 10, top 15 of just those. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think for me, definitely it's, I don't listen to half as much drum and bass as you do probably. So there's a ton of stuff that I just haven't heard this year, that might have ended up on my top 10 if I had heard them, but I didn't feel like trying to listen to as much stuff as possible for this top 10 because, or this top 5, because like if I haven't heard it, I just haven't heard it, and just kind of choosing on the spot, oh yeah, this tune is great, and suddenly making your top 5 is kind of weird. But yeah, dude, there's so many like sub niches of drum and bass that you could do a top 100 and the next guy wouldn't have a single track in common.
Exactly.
And we're not even talking about like jump up and screechy stuff. So
I have a couple of jump up tracks on there, but I think my biggest weakness is neurofunk. Definitely, like it's just the current neurofunk just doesn't work with me that much. I've got a couple of phase tracks on my list, but
actually, before we jump into the top 2, do you want to kind of big up and shout out some of your tracks that didn't quite make your top 5?
Definitely. Okay, so as we said, we had Nympho and Flow Anastasia with River Flows. Then we have Pavan from Foreign Beggars and his track All on Black, and that remixed by Fixate.
Fixate, yeah.
Fixate, sorry.
No,
and that one. Then Royal Stone Black Phillip, which again, one of those tracks that you listen to, and that's something you don't hear every day in drum and bass. It's just completely, I wouldn't say completely different, but a very different vibe and elements and progression and everything, and just very well done. So that kind of stood out to me. Shella Halogenic remix. Mephius Without Them, just his latest track off the Critical EP that hasn't been released yet. I don't think so. No, it hasn't. And then 2 more tracks that kind of stood out of all the rest of the 90 that I had is Freedom from Subfocus and Wilkinson's album, and especially the Subfocus Wilkinson and High Contrast remix that came out of it.
Yeah.
And then the next one is, I think purely out of DJing purposes, is Justin Hawkes, I Just Don't Know.
Yeah.
And I've been just rinsing that out. It works as a double drop for everything, and ever since I just kind of started to love it more and more.
Yeah.
And that is definitely for that reason on there at my number 12 spot. After that, you got a couple of dance floor tracks, and you got some Askel and LR.
Still haven't heard a Liquid track, but okay.
Oh, I just mentioned Askel and LR. I just mentioned.
Do they have Liquid tracks? Kind of, I guess, yeah.
Really? Most of the tracks are Liquid.
Liquid.
You interviewed them twice.
Liquid is piano and violins, okay?
Well, okay. Well, that kind of Liquid. Let me see. Quick.
Liquid.
Oh no. I can't see any. Taste of Hope, Imanu. Does that count?
Yeah, that's definitely Liquid.
Okay. Machine Drum, Only One. That was also one of my top ones. Um, I'd count those as Liquid. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'll shout out a few tunes as well. Before we get into my 2 favorite tracks of the year. What did I have here? I had a few other stuff from North Quarter. Echo Brown. He had a really strong EP. And his track Affirmations and his track Love Won't Do were, I didn't rank them. They were just outside of my top 10. Those two I loved.
Was that the same EP that his track Gully came out on?
Nah, Gully was I don't think that was on the North Quarter. That was on a...
Well, that makes sense because it's kind of heavy.
I think that was on a
heavy halftime. So
yeah, that was on the an Irish label. I forget the name.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that was on a different EP. Another few which I really want to shout out because they were like self-released tracks. We talked about this again in our rundown episodes. Longing by Artsy, which was pure just self-released track from him, which I absolutely loved, and I thought it was really well done, and evoked a lot of things in me when I heard it. So I loved that track. Winslow Amore, which came out on Hospital, which again, one of those tracks where like I've never heard a drum and bass track done like that, with the gospel singing at the start and all the harmonies. And
is that just him?
You know what? I was listening back to it, and
I think it is.
I forget because I know I spoke to him on the podcast about that track specifically, and I know the kind of breakdown with the voicemail message. That's his girlfriend that left him a voice message. So that's like real life stuff. And then when he starts rapping, emceeing over the second drop, that's him. The actual harmonies, I forget. If it's him, they sound amazing. And yeah, I love that track and could have easily made my top 5.
Wasn't this track the one he said that this one was the first that Hospital kind of took interest in? If I remember correctly, he mentioned something like that.
But that one was on Hospital.
This one was, yes.
Yeah. It might have been the first one because it was on I think it was on a Future Symptoms compilation.
Volume
by Hospital.
1.
Yeah. I think they had an eye on him since the stuff he put out on Gold Fat and his self-release stuff. I'm sure they had an eye on him for a long time. But that track, just, brilliant track. Another self-released one was a bootleg. So I just want to shout out at least one bootleg in this compilation, or in this top best tracks of 2021. Aperio put out a bootleg of London Grammar, How Does It Feel?
How have I not heard this one?
Dude, it's fucking brilliant.
I have every London Grammar album on vinyl. Flex.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Flex, yeah. Okay, we're Flex, but okay.
How have I not? I'm putting this on my queue as soon as we finish this.
Yeah, if you guys are fan of, or if you enjoy like bootlegs, or if you're playing like a garden party with people that maybe aren't into drum and bass specifically, and if you still want to play drum and bass but with some tracks that people will recognize, Appear is just the king of taking pop tracks and making amazing bootlegs out of them. I've lost count of how many amazing bootlegs he's done. And this one from London Grammar came out in 2021, and yeah, just brilliant. Like, I prefer to the original. No shame. So
talking about bootlegs, just a quick shout out of the year, since we're doing a yearly roundup and that came up. Focus has been putting out these unknown collections on Bandcamp, which are a collection. There's a lot of these volumes. I think there's maybe 2 or 3, not sure. Anyway, a lot of tracks, and these are all like unknown artist bootlegs of popular songs
Mm.
and all the tracks. If someone is interested in that kind of stuff, then this is where you want to head out. These have been massive. Like some of the tracks have been, I'm pretty sure I have a couple of them in my list too this year, and love these.
Yeah, yeah, no, a good old bootleg from time to time. Just, and by the way, he put out a bootleg recently. I think it's a liquid bootleg of fuck me, I forget now. Is it Dimension Desire? I think he put out a liquid bootleg, which is really well done again. So yeah, if you guys want to pick up some free downloads, check out Aperio on SoundCloud. And yeah, just another one or two bop together on Hospital. Obviously, technically not a drum and bass track, but track
Who
that I
cares?
loved. What's that?
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares exactly? And yeah, that's about it for the tracks that didn't quite make my top five. Surely there's plenty others that I forgot to mention. But yeah, those are the ones I wanted to shout out before we get into our 2 favorite tracks of the year.
Ooh, exciting.
Can you feel the tension? So, all right, the floor is yours. What is your number 2
Drum
best
roll,
track?
Please. Can I get a drum roll somehow? There we go. Beautiful. My best track is Apache and Jeffrey Distance Boonshin remix.
Boonshin remix. Okay, I
Yes.
thought that was gonna be number 1.
No, unfortunately not. I
Okay.
think you're going to be surprised with number 1, but yeah, this
probably.
one, absolutely. This one of the tracks that if someone asked me, came to me in each situation, woke me up in the middle of the night, asked me what were your top 5 drum and bass tracks, this would be automatically in my mind, like definitely. And the original track is from Apache's album called Renaissance, and the vocal work is done by a French Canadian. I say French Canadian because of the way how he pronounces his name with a French weird accent at the end. I'm not going to even try and butcher the name. I'm just going to call him Jeffrey from now on.
I think it's Geoffroy.
Yes, exactly.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, that one. And Geoffroy here.
Nice, not bad. Say it again.
Geoffroy.
Yeah, very nice.
He has an amazing catalog of music, and with a pretty big fan base too. Most of his vocal work and tracks are very chill indie vibes. So collabing with this on this kind of cinematic trap banger is kind of weird, even surprising.
Is the original a trap?
Yes, it is.
Trap?
Yes, it's the kind of this very cinematic, larger than life trap song, and I think again, I'm just repeating myself here. The vocals are the thing that kind of makes it.
Yeah.
Again,
I can see a common thread here.
I can see that now myself too. I didn't think about this before, but yes, this for some reason has a weird effect on me. Apparently.
Yeah.
You've got good vocals, and
Yeah.
I think all of these. Well, Cientella doesn't go into the same category, but the Joss Pan Supersonic vocals and the vocals on this are pretty similar.
I was gonna say it's kind of a similar indie vibe, yeah, for sure.
Like I said, airy male vocals, kind of melancholic. That works so well on me.
Yeah.
And you got Boonshin who steps in, turns this kind of trap anthem into like this, I don't know, certified drum smasher.
Drum smasher.
Yeah. And this rating basically is just based on the drop and what comes after that drop, and then once you add the vocals in and everything else, it's just perfect.
That was the one I was
perfect.
That's the one where it's like 3 minutes long and the first minute and a half is the intro, right?
Exactly, it is. It's kind of surprising considering on what kind of track it is. You don't get this kind of like a club.
Yeah, no.
I'm not sure if you call it neurofunk, but anyway, this kind of club track that has this, I don't know, at least 1.5 minute intro and then one drop, and then it even ends with a very non-DJ way.
Yeah.
And I like it for that. He's clearly put in some kind of like creative effort. Of course, he probably puts in creative effort in everything, but this kind of bleeds through really well.
Yeah.
You get the sense of what he's kind of thinking and trying to push through, and
Yeah, I especially love the mix of. I love when there's like a mix of genres, and I do love my like indie kind of songwriter type of music, Ben Howard and stuff like that from time to time, and yeah, hearing that type of vocal in the intro, but knowing it's a Bunchin remix and it's gonna slap really hard at some point.
At some point, it's like, when is it gonna come?
Yeah, exactly. At some point, but having those mix of genres is something I love. I was kind of curious, like, do you use it in mixes, or is it kind of too hard to mix out of?
We've got a couple of good blends that work with this very well. Just to no one steal our ideas, but Common and Crooked Witch Doctor, the claps that come in work in really, like the claps in the intro work really well with the outro of this track. So it's kind of like, plus it works very well in the sense of this track is this Bunshin remix is it's just so energetic that there's very little tracks that you can slap on afterward and make it feel kind of bitter in a sense. Anything you play after this is just going to feel like a letdown. So in a way, Witch Doctor, because it's a very different kind of track. If you mix those together, it changes the mood completely, but it does it in a good way that it's kind of acceptable. So in that sense, also it works very well for that.
And like, does having that like super long intro, is that like helpful to mix it in with the previous track, or do you just jump to
not for us really? We like to mix very, very fast pace.
Okay,
if we do, this would be one of the tracks that you kind of let the intro just play out for a minute because it's just so good. Like, just the way he builds it up with all the elements and bringing up the instrumental slowly but surely, it's just so well done that this would be one of the tracks that you kind of let the intro play out. But a lot of the time we don't personally, we kind of bang out tracks left and right and try to have it in a kind of good cohesive manner, which is sometimes very difficult when you are trying to switch out a track every 40 seconds.
I've done the occasional online mix, which obviously is like a liquid mix, and it's usually 2 minutes at a time, like just letting the entire drop mixing.
That works with liquid. That's the whole point. Like, I've done a lot easier as well. I've done a couple of liquid mixes that I ended up really happy with, even though they are I kind of continued the same DJing style of trying to kind of double drop a lot of stuff.
You can still double drop in liquid.
You can do it definitely, but it works just letting the tracks breathe and letting them chill.
And actually,
does wonders for liquid.
I'd even say that when you manage to, like, saying double drop in liquid kind of feels weird, but when you manage to add a vocal of a new track on the second drop of another track, or I've often done like a piano intro over the second drop, and it just fits so well or something. I don't know. It worked really well. I don't know if it qualifies as a double drop because it's technically not two drops at the same time, but
you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, brilliant. So that was your number 2. Let's move to my number 2. I'm hesitating if I should just switch number 1 and number 2 now. But the more I think about it, I don't think I could put something else as number 1. So at my number 2 spot is what I would call pretty much the perfection of what a liquid track can be.
Lickety track.
Lickety track. Anybody that tries to make liquid, in my opinion, is aiming for this type of track, because there's not a lot going on and it's just beautiful and perfect. I'm obviously talking about Paul and Bryson with Lauren Archer, the track Under, on Shogun from their album Beneath the Surface, which came out quite earlier this year, because I think it was the first single off the album, maybe second single, I forget. And yeah, I don't know what to say about this track. It's just pure bliss, pure perfection, from the piano intro, the vocal melody, the swelling strings that come in the build up, the drop, the harmonies on the vocals. I don't know. Everything about it is just liquid perfection. And yeah, it's a track I always come back to, and that evokes a lot of emotions in me. My wife loves it and sings it a lot in the house as well. She never listens to drum and bass, but she's in love with this track, which I think is always a good sign. And yeah, just a beautiful track, pretty much the opposite of every track on your top 5, which I think is good for a bit of variety. But yeah, just a beautiful track, and something I hope one day I'm able to kind of imitate.
What else did you like from the album? Which were you like? Can you give a top 5 of Beneath the Surface?
We might talk about the album later, so
We might. Okay then.
I'll keep it for later. No spoilers. No, obviously the album is brilliant, and if this track is my second favorite track of the year, obviously the album is gonna rank pretty high in my albums. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, no, this track just beautiful. I wish Lauren Archer would do more drum and bass, because she doesn't.
Never heard of her. Before this. She's done another Paul and Bryson track.
Yeah. She does almost only with Paul and Bryson, I think. If you check her, she might have other aliases. I'm not really aware of what she does, but under that name, it's almost only with Paul and Bryson, I think.
Yes.
And there isn't a lot of tracks, but her voice is just, it's like brilliant. And the melodies she finds, it's always kind of changing, but it's also repeating, and the words she put to that song, supposedly, I imagine she wrote them, but those words of I don't know, just kind of
rambling on here about this track just because.
I just love that track, and if anybody hasn't heard it, please do check it out. But I'm guessing most people listening to this podcast will have heard of this track. So yeah, Paul and Bryson with Lauren Archer, Under, is my number 2 track of 2021. Did you think it was going to be number 1, or?
Probably yes. Now I'm kind of surprised on both of my picks. What I think you were going to take are now already mentioned. So
you'll see. My number 1. I don't think we spoke about it that much together, but I've just played it so many times at home, and we'll talk about it. But before we jump into the number 1, I'm going to take a super quick bathroom break.
Go ahead.
Because
I shall entertain the podcast.
Exactly. If you manage to entertain our listeners enough, I won't cut this out. If
Jesus, the pressure.
If you don't manage, I'll have to cut this out. So good luck.
Okay. So I wanted to chat about Simon. Simon mentioned Lauren Archer here, and I find it interesting that she has only done tracks with Paul and Bryson. I'm looking at her Spotify now, and okay, there's one track. There is one track that she has done with someone else that is drum and bass. But other than that, just Polo and Bryson. And I find it interesting that some artists or vocalists just collab kind of with each other, and I have the feeling that some of it might be of the reason that you can have you kind of have that exclusivity to said vocalist. And I've bumped into this before. I come from a trance background, and there you have a big artist or trio, in this case is Above and Beyond, who uses vocalists in a way that basically almost no other people use these vocalists, and it creates this kind of team building kind of thing where everybody is kind of expecting this vocalist. They like this same vocalist, they enjoy his work, they know what to expect. And in the same way that Kings of the Rollers kind of do just stuff with Inja, it kind of turns them into one of the band.
Dude, you're still talking.
Yes, I kept talking about.
Did you keep talking? Or
I
do I
did.
have to edit this out?
You can listen to it and see if it's good enough.
I'll be the judge if we leave this in.
But I was talking about you mentioned Lauren Archer and how she does like only Polo and Bryson, and that got me thinking that I bumped into this phenomenon before. And if I was a smart business person, and also did music, that is something that I would might want for my vocalist, that they are exclusive to me, because that kind of creates a certain I talked about like team building, and people relate that vocalist to said artist, and they know
but
what
how do
to
you do
expect.
that? How, like, because obviously people will hear like Under has like 1 million streams.
Yeah.
Like there's like 1 million artists that want to do a track with her and that have probably reached out. So how do you
I expect it would be either, there's a couple of good ways I would think.
If she
First
signed
one
her.
is just just sign her, make her sign a contract. You are us, and you are and
You
we
belong
are
to
you.
us.
Yes, exactly. Or then you're just good friends, and you just kind of come to this conclusion on your own. Like,
Yeah.
I'll just do tracks with you guys.
Yeah.
Because
maybe.
I think if you find a artist, a producer, if you as a vocalist find an artist and a producer that is very successful, it might even be for your
Advantage,
own good, to stick with them for a long time.
Yeah. And release less tracks, but just with them. And
Yeah.
I remember I spoke with a long time ago with I think it was episode 12 or something with Talamic, and he did quite a few collabs with Natel, and she's not exclusive to him or Liquidity or whatever, but they've done a few tracks together, and we were talking about how that kind of helps build a sense of familiarity when you listen to the track, because obviously Talamic has his style of production, and then you add Notel's voice, which is quite recognizable, and you've heard it once, and then a second time, a third time, and you kind of associate them together, which I think is really something. If people are doing vocal tracks, if you find a good collaboration, try to stick to a few vocalists. At least from a listener perspective, it definitely helps build a deeper connection with the tracks.
Yeah.
I feel.
Well, it's just like someone finding their own kind of production style or their own bass line that they use all the time. It's just one of those elements that kind of makes you easier to remember for the listener.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Does it feel like we're just pushing the pushing back the
Inevitable.
Jesus.
I learned that from The Matrix. That's the only reason I know how to say
Inevitable. My third sider is kicking in here. Are we just pushing back the inevitable moment where I'm going to be disappointed with your number one?
I don't think you are. Okay, then
All right,
let's get to it.
let's do it. What is your number one track of 2021?
My number one track is a track that I would consider liquid. It is not a. It is not a just a piano, drums, little simple bass liquid. It is. I'm not sure if you would say it is, but it is Unglued South by West.
What?
Yes. That is my
Dude, I did
absolutely
not
top favorite track of the year.
I did not see that coming at all. It's okay. Walk me through it.
Okay, so the reason I picked this one is because it just forces a smile on my face every time I listen to it. It kind of ignites something. Like I asked you about this earlier on the episode, and it kind of like gets me into the mood of music every time. If I have a period of not feeling, I don't know, DJing or producing or anything else in between, basically, I just put this on and automatically I just get super motivated and gets me dancing every time and just feel really good in general. And that is purely the reason I put it there. I haven't bumped into that kind of track this year other than this, and that is the reason it is my number one pick of the year.
Jesus, that's
and
quite
in general, just I don't know what causes it. Maybe it's the rhythm. Maybe it's the kind of all the really lush, vibey brass horns that
it's very
create
old
the
school
atmosphere.
sounding.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know. I'm just super impressed with the track, and I don't think I'm alone. I think it's his most listened to track,
on the album. On
the album.
I just checked it. Yeah, by far. Yeah,
and yeah, that is really the reason. I have not many other things to talk about it, in a sense of it is a drum and bass track. It has good drums. It had good production. It is very enjoyable, but the feeling that I get from listening to it is the reason.
Yeah, there's nothing that really, like, in terms of production, or there isn't like a huge drop, or there isn't like that one synth line that really stands. There's nothing that really stands out, but I definitely see what you mean. All together, it kind of like just evokes an ambience and a feeling. I see what you mean. Yeah.
And it made this very difficult, this whole process of listening to my favorite tracks and trying to write stuff about them and think about things to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I was keep listening to this track, and when I listened to it, I started doing something. I opened up all my DJ equipment, all my software, and I started playing around in FL Studio, and then I need to concentrate on this, and I went back to it. Yeah, I did. Focused. Exactly. And then I decided, okay, I'm gonna listen to Supersonic now for a while, and then once I got back to the Unglued track, it just automatically I just jumping around the house in my seat here, and then all of a sudden I'm in FL Studio again and mixing tracks, trying to find some double drops with this track, and fuck. It took me ages. That's why I needed to move the schedule for this. We were supposed to record an hour earlier, but I needed to move it because I wasted about 2.5 hours. I wasted about 2.5 hours because of this track on other things that I should not be doing in that situation.
I remember we talked about the album when it came out on the rundown. Was that track a track that like stood out to you the first time you listened to it, or was it more kind of now rediscovering it? And
yeah, I think I said earlier that I rediscovered it now when I was hunting for tracks, but no, this was not the case. I rediscovered it, I don't know, a month ago maybe, when I was looking for stuff for a DJ stream, and that was when I kind of rediscovered it again. I was like, God damn, this is so good. And it just gets me in just thinking about it just gets me in like this really joyful, happy mood, and love it.
I think that's how even the other tracks in your top 5, in my top 5. Those tracks that just immediately evoke something in you
Mm-hmm.
and just have that visceral reaction of either nostalgia or, as you said, like just happiness and just wanting to mix and be productive, do something. And those in the end are the best tracks. And I think it's really cool that like the other tracks in your top 5 might be, some of them might be examples in terms of sound design and production and mix downs and all of that. But actually your favorite track of the year isn't something that's like perfectly mixed down and super clean or anything like that. There's nothing super impressive as such in the track, but it's still managed obviously to evoke something in you that like you just love it.
And now that I look at all the top 5 and past that, there's every single one of those kind of, when I think about them, they bring up some kind of feeling. Like you got the Supersonic and Distance remix vocals that are just hit me differently. And then you got Backup on from Workforce that kind of gets you, I don't know what to describe it, but the drums in that, like I said, it's the drums is what makes that track, and it just hit very differently. It's hard to explain, but there is some sort of emotion there. And then Cientello, you got the sing along, which kind of makes it.
Yeah.
And you got that alone is just a complete vibe.
Yeah. Dude,
And
yeah,
out of
I was
like
not
my
expecting
top
it.
5, yeah. Out of like my top 10, there's 2 tracks in there, 3 tracks in there that are basically kind of, they are in there for the bass phase basically.
Yeah.
You got Mepheus Without Them. That less so. I think the vocal again makes that track, the kind of the sample that he used, really good. Then you got the Shella Halogenic remix, that is definitely one of the bass face tracks, and then the All on Black Fixate remix is another one of those. But for the top 5, yeah, they all evoke this kind of some kind of feeling, and I think the best feeling that I got was from the Unglued track.
Yeah, dude, I was not expecting it, but are you going to talk about the album as a whole later on, or not?
Yes.
Okay, let's leave it. I was gonna ask you if there's, as you asked me earlier, if there's other tracks. Sorry, other tracks on there that you loved, but let's keep that for the second part of the episode. I'm expecting this episode to be the longest ever, but I think that's only appropriate if it's the last episode of the year. So
Makes sense, yes.
all right, the big moment.
Drum roll, I'll do it there here.
Yeah, I think so. For my number 1 track of 2021, I think this was like the first track that just came to mind when I was thinking about my favorite tracks of the year. Just trying to think back of what I loved during the year, and this one was like the first one that popped out. Because it's also one of the ones I've listened to the most frequently. Like since it came out, I just, from time to time, I just listen back to it, and I just love it all the time. Dramatic pause. It is a VIP, but who cares? It's Metric and Graphics. Jesus, Metric and Graphics. Parallel VIP on Hospital.
Again, I was not expecting that.
Oh, really?
No.
I'm sure we talked about it when they put out Overdrive and Parallel VIP together.
You did, but I didn't get that vibe that it's the best track of the year. Definitely interesting, very interesting.
Again, it's the best. Like again, this is a fact. It's not like my opinion. This is the best track of the year. You can prove it mathematically that it's the best one. But yeah, dude, this track I didn't know the original that well. Like I hadn't listened to it that much. And when I listened to the VIP, like we were talking about long intros before with the Boonshin remix, this one has like the best intro I've ever heard on any track ever. It just builds up
Okay then.
and builds up and builds up. And yeah, just that lead melody when there's like a semi drop in the intro, so it kind of builds up, and then there's like a kind of drop where the melody really blasts out.
Mm-hmm.
Then it jumps to an octave or something. The melody
Mhm.
continues, and then it just kind of cuts, and you have the actual like vocals, and then a second build up to the actual drop. I don't know. Everything about this track is just is just brilliant. We, like people know, we moved in here in Dublin quite recently in May. We didn't have any speakers for a long time, and I bought a set of speakers for the living room back in August or something. And this track was the first one I put on to kind of test the speakers in the living room. And so you have to imagine, like, it's a very small living room,
I
fireplace.
guess the speakers were pretty good then.
Yeah, they're like cheap enough, but they're good. And you have to imagine, so like small living room, little fireplace, and you have this like wood top above the fireplace, two speakers, kind of a meter apart from each other on top of the fireplace. I was standing at like like the perfect triangle where you're supposed to be when you have like two speakers heading your way. Put on that track, and yeah, dude, I was kind of emotional, like listening to it, like just hearing the melody blast out in my living room, hearing the bass kick in, those vocals. I know it's not supposed to be like a emotional track because it is a big dance floor, stadium snare, all of that.
Yeah, that is the general consensus, that you can't get attached to dance floor tracks, which is
the biggest lie ever, because some of I've talked about this before with like Andromedic Forever. That track is like hugely, I have a huge emotional reaction to that track. And yeah, same with this track again. I've listened to it again and again since it came out. And for me, it's all in the intro because I enjoyed the original, but having that minute and a half or 2 minutes long, I don't know how long it is, intro that just builds up and builds up and builds up, and then you have the drop. Yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful tune. It's heavy, it's melodic, it's emotional, it's everything I want in drum and bass. It makes me want to go back to parties, which I haven't had a chance to go back to yet. Makes me want to talk to Metric one day when I get him on the podcast eventually. So yeah, that was my number one track of 2021.
I'm very surprised. Considering everything else you have here, you got Submorphics, you got Artsy, you got Winslow, you got Monty with Vibing, you got Edland, you got Saddle, you got Caliber,
Yeah.
and then what did he do? He puts a
Metric dance floor
track.
Come on. I love subverting expectations.
This was very subverting, yes.
It's all about subverting expectations. Yeah, but honestly, it's first track I thought of when I was thinking about my favorite tracks of the year. That one just stood out straight away. As I said, when I tested my speakers, it's the first one I listened to. Very almost emotional when I was hearing it, just because of that melody, and yeah, just a brilliant tune. Again, I don't produce that type of drum and bass, but still, it's my favorite track of the year. So come at me on Facebook and Instagram if you don't agree.
You said earlier that you don't know if you should switch places for number one and number two.
Yeah.
Why didn't you? And what would be the reasons that you would have, if you would have done it?
Yeah. So they're like pretty much opposite tracks, but they evoke the exact same thing in me, which is just like that melancholic feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but for me, that melody in the Metric VIP track is very melancholic for some reason. Under is on a more obvious basis very melancholic because of the pianos, violins, etc. Why did I put them in that order? Probably just because today is the day we're recording, and that's the way I feel about them. Now, probably if I had to choose like one track like to listen to for the next year, and I couldn't listen to the other track, I would need, quote unquote, I would need the Parallel VIP more than I would need to listen to Under, just because, yeah, Under is a proper melancholic track, but if you listen to that track every week, you just end up depressed and staying in bed all day. Whereas, which I don't know, is great like sometimes, but Parallel VIP just is melancholic, but also sets me in a mood of like I can do whatever I want and I can achieve whatever I want to achieve. Has that kind of obviously upbeat feeling with the drop and all of that, and I guess that's the reason why that track stood out. I don't have like obviously specific stats how many times I've listened to each of them. It's probably roughly similar, but yeah, any other day it might have been another way, but today Parallel VIP takes the number one spot.
Interesting that you say that if you had to listen to it like all the time. I started thinking and looking at my list, and it would be probably
crazy.
slightly different. It would be slightly different though, the whole list. Probably wouldn't have the Boonshin remix there.
Yeah.
River Flows would be higher. By Flo and Anastasia. Also Mepheus Without Them, and the Sub Focus remix, or the High Contrast remix of Freedom.
Yeah.
That would be also higher, and then a couple of others too. But I guess that's just one way to.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say,
like, there's so many things you could rank tracks on. That's just one of the things that you could.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be like, what do you call repeatability or something of the track. It can just be like, yeah, maybe the Boonshin remix is so heavy hitting, but you wouldn't listen to it like every day, maybe. But it's still an amazing tune.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, looking back on my top 5, yeah, it's for me that was one of the, not like a conscious criteria that I would listen to them every day if I could, but now that I look at them, I could listen to them, yeah, every day definitely, and I wouldn't get sick of any of them really. So yeah, that was our top 5 tracks. Big up to, before we jump into our favorite albums, big up to everybody that's been like producing this year, putting out all this like amazing music. I know most of the listeners of this podcast are also producers, so yeah, big up to every single one of you that's actually putting out music, putting in the time to make music for us to listen to it. As you can see, for both of us, it's a emotional affair. So yeah, big up to every single producer out there.
Just a quick question: did you have any other dance floor tracks, like
in my
even close?
In my top, in my like selection?
Yeah.
I had like a few. It's not dance floor, but like DJ hitting. I don't know if you know this track from Vowel, Dusk, Pitch Black on Overview. Yeah, that one was like in my short list. What else did I have? I did put Angel Blade by Sleepnet.
Okay.
Just because I remember listening to that track and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I haven't heard anything like this, so I just put it on my short list, but yeah, it didn't make the top. And then I had New Beginning from Maddox EP. Maddox album, sorry, with Lextrus, which, yeah, I really enjoyed, but I didn't find myself coming back to it and really connecting to it on a deeper level, like the ones I put in my top 5. So, but besides that, all the others were, yeah, your more soulful, liquid type of tunes. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Interesting. You thought you knew me.
Exactly. You throw out a curveball at the last moment.
Yeah.
Last episode, and you drop this on me. Jeez.
All right, that was it for part 1, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. As I mentioned, part 2 will be coming out next Monday with our favorite albums of 2021. If you want to get early access to that episode or early access to any other episode, feel free to join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/lastweekliquid. But yeah, just wanted to close this episode off. And again, thank all of you that have been listening to these episodes over the last year, and all you people that send in messages saying that they've discovered the podcast and they've started binge listening to them. It always means a lot when I get these types of messages. So again, thanks a lot for everybody tuning in and listening to this podcast. I have a ton of episodes lined up for you guys next year, and other types of episodes and things I want to do. So Last Week Liquid podcast isn't going anywhere. So with that said, again, a very Merry Christmas to all of you, a Happy New Year, and I will be seeing you all soon again.